We got another mock draft video for you today, but this time we're doing a 10-team full PPR snake draft with the 10th overall pick. I really like how this team came out, but before we get started, if you can hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel, we're trying to reach our goal of 100 subscribers by the time NFL season kicks off, and we can't do that without your help. Let's get into it. All right, we have a 10-team full PPR snake draft. We have the 10th overall pick, no kicker, double flex. So let's dive right in. And what I'm thinking here is I'm going to go heavy running back through the first couple rounds. I've been hearing about this zero running back strategy going around the fantasy world. Don't do that. You want to draft running backs early on. I suggest getting 2 to 3 solid running backs by the time you get to the 5th and 6th round. So I'm going to go running back here, and looking at the running backs available, I'm going to go Joe Mixon and Alvin Kamara. Both of these guys finished as top 10 running backs last season. I think they have a great opportunity to do it again, so I don't mind either of these guys. It's back to me. I'm gonna go for another running back, and Ezekiel Elliott and James Conner are the guys I'm looking at. I'm gonna go Ezekiel Elliott. He's been a top 10 running back since being in the league. He only finished outside of the top 10 one season, and that was due to injury. So I think Ezekiel Elliott is a great pickup at his current ADP. Don't hesitate on clicking on Zeke. A lot of people don't like him for some reason, probably because last season Tony Pollard was taking touches away from him, but I think that had to do with Zeke dealing with some kind of injury. So don't hesitate to click on Zeke's name. But it's back to me right away, and I'm gonna go for a wide receiver now. We got T. Higgins and Michael Pittman available, and a lot of people are gonna say go T. Higgins here, and I'm not gonna do that. And the reason is because look, he's being drafted as a top 15 wide receiver. I don't see him being better than he was last season, which he did have some amazing fantasy games. I just don't see him finishing as a top 15 wide receiver with Jamar Chase, who's going to be the focus of this team. So I'm out on T. Higgins, and I'm going to go with Michael Pittman, who I think has a great opportunity to finish as a top 15, if not top 10 wide receiver with Matt Ryan as his quarterback. We know Matt Ryan can produce fantasy wide receivers. We saw Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley finish as top 10 wide receivers, and I think Michael Pittman has a chance to do that this season. It's back to me, and I'm going to go with some more wide receivers here. We got Courtland Sutton available, and that's who I'm going to go with. I really like him. I'm very high on him this season. With Russell Wilson as his quarterback, I think he has a great chance of finishing in the top 10 this season, so I don't mind Courtland Sutton at all. And let's take a look at the running backs available. And looking at the running backs here, I'm going to go with A.J. Dillon. Now, A.J. Dillon is in a great position this season. The Packers' offense is going to look completely different without Davante Adams, and I expect them to lean on these running backs, A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. So I like both of those guys this season, and getting A.J. Dillon in the 6th round is not bad at all. But it's back to me, and I'm going to go for another wide receiver here. And looking at the wide receivers available, we got Darnell Mooney and Rashad Bateman that I'm looking at, and I'm going to go with Rashad Bateman here. Rashad Bateman is going to be the focus of this wide receiver group for the Ravens, and I think he has a great shot of breaking out this season and being fantasy relevant. So I don't mind him. And I'm going to go for a tight end now. And looking at the tight ends available, we got Zach Ertz available here, who I really like. He came over from the Eagles last season, and he was immediately involved in this offense. So I don't mind Zach Ertz at all. And it's back to me, and let's take a look at our roster. We need a quarterback, a defense, and 4 bench spots. So let's go for a wide receiver first. And looking at the wide receivers here, we got Brandon Ayuk, Treylon Burks, Alan Lazard, and that's who I'm going to go with. I really like Alan Lazard this season. Without Davante Adams, look, Davante Adams had 169 targets last season. Those targets are going to have to go to someone, and I think Alan Lazard is going to be that guy. I don't think he's going to get 169 targets this season, but I think he's going to soak up a lot of those targets. So I think he's going to be great for fantasy. I could see him going earlier in some drafts, but getting him in the 9th round is a no-brainer. And I'm going to go for a quarterback now, and looking at the quarterbacks available, we got Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, Trey Lance, and I'm looking at Dak Prescott here. I think Dak Prescott is going to be a great fantasy quarterback this season. We know he's been a great fantasy producer in the past. He has a pretty big ceiling, similar to players like Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson, and we heard that the Cowboys want Dak to run the ball more, so we can only assume that's going to translate into more rushing touchdowns for Dak. So I don't mind Dak at all. And let's continue to get some more depth at the wide receiver position, and Christian Kirk is available here. I really like Christian Kirk. He's going to be the wide receiver 1 for the Jaguars. They paid him as a top 20 wide receiver over over this past offseason. So I expect him to be very involved, and I expect this offense to look completely different than it did under Coach Urban Meyer. So I don't mind Christian Kirk, and I'm going to go for another wide receiver here, and I think I'm going to go for a rookie, and we got Sky Moore, George Pickens, who I really like, but there's someone who I really want to get here, and that's Jalen Tolbert. Stack him up with Dak Prescott. I think he has a great opportunity to be the wide receiver 2 on this team right away. With Michael Gallup working his way back from his ACL injury, I think he can be relevant. Inspect to me, and let's take a look at our roster here. I'm really liking how this team's looking. So we need a defense and another bench spot. I think I'm going to go for another wide receiver, and looking at the wide receivers available, we got Julio Jones at the top here. I'm not thinking too much about this. I really like Julio Jones. I think he's going to be involved in this offense early on with Chris Godwin working his way back from his ACL injury. I think they're going to have to lean on Julio Jones. I understand this guy deals with injuries, but we know he's an elite wide receiver. And now we need to pick a defense as our last pick. And looking at the defenses available here, we got the Ravens, the Chargers, and I'm going to go with the Chargers. And that's going to do it for us today. If you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, line them up.